Madam City Attorney. Madam City Attorney.
Then I mean, I don't know what they told me. I just assumed you'd be thinking much over it because, you know, the other guys. But they never told you. Why don't you text Steve and ask him if he can get out of there? I mean, it's not that I don't. I mean, I like having you as company, but yeah, I mean, I don't think he can stay much longer. Alright, well, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Are we ready, Francisco? We got a long night. Oh, not ready. Oh, okay, Francisco, do what you need to do to fix it. Whatever. Oh, you're so awesome. We'll start in 3 minutes. Councilor Adams, Francisco, he came. We are ready. Councilmember Solomon, he checked everybody, so everybody should be ready. Thank Mr. Francisco, communication team, for doing a great job. All right, it is 7:07 and 20 seconds, calling this meeting to order. Let the record show that all council members are present. We go into our citizen comments. You have 4 minutes to speak on the agenda item.
Madam Mayor, I
Yes.
apologize for interrupting, but the approval of the agenda is first.
I haven't gotten to that. Oh, yes, I did. I skipped all over that. Please forgive me. Okay, let me finish my sentence. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Before we go to the citizen comments, you must do the approval of the agenda. And we get, okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda before I go in detail? All right, Councilmember Boyd.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Councilmember Adams.
Second.
All in favor, yes? All abstain? All for or against? Yes or no? Okay, motion carries 7-0. Now, thank you, Madam Secretary. To our citizen comments on agenda items. You have 4 minutes to speak. Council, you have 1 minute allotted. If you want to respond, a statement, explanation, or please do not engage in dialogue. Our first one is Heather McNally. Good evening, you have 4 minutes.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and City Manager. I'm speaking to you on behalf about CIPs in the 2020-2025. Per the 15-year pre-annexation agreement of the donut hole signed August 17, 2006, that went into effect in 2008, a CIP and/or bond was to be put in for the donut hole area's drainage and infrastructure. I have yet to see where a CIP has been put in for the donut hole area, and we are now in the year 2024. I can only hope that a CIP is in today's 2025 presentation, as that presentation was not included in the agenda packet. This is not a new concern. I have brought it to the attention of the entire council, with no response from most of you, or a resolution that can stop the extreme flooding of my property and neighbors by the extensive building and lack of proper infrastructure with no CIP in sight. The city has also posted a quarterly update with CIPs on Stagecoach reconstruction. In the comments, it states they are awaiting right-of-way releases to be signed by residents to do an environmental study, but yet none of my neighbors nor myself have received a letter asking to do so, even though we are highlighted in the red square. It is also discouraging seeing Bermuda Roslyn Phase 1 for street flooding on the CIP list and still listed as TBD. It has been on the CIP list since voted on by the council in June of 2015, and it was approved for funding from 2006 bond of over $772,000, yet has not been completed. Why and where has that funding gone from 2006 on something that was approved in 2015? I can also only hope an additional CIP is put in 2025 plan for an updated FEMA flood zone survey, because this is extremely irresponsible to continue to approve developments that contributes to the erosion of our community, waterways, and wetlands throughout the entire city using maps dated in 2008. How much building and land clearing has been done in the last 18 years? Continuing to push off flooding and infrastructure issues only increases costs and causes more damage in the long run. Ask yourself what damage has been caused by these outdated flood zone maps and pushing back CIPs. I appreciate you taking the time. This is the only way. I hope you will each take a minute and speak to me, because many of you have not returned my phone calls, nor my emails, nor my texts over this situation. It's disheartening, and I'm very, very frustrated. This is not how I wanted to handle this, but a CIP needs to be put in, and it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to state for the record that Ms. McNeely did reach out to us via email, and I appreciate the information that you submitted. I did respond to that email, and I forwarded it to the appropriate parties within our city leadership who can handle that, your concern. And my understanding is an appointment has been set up for that for review. I will be following along with that closely, and I appreciate you bringing it to our attention, but I just wanted to state that for the record that we did respond. The city leadership has responded, and the appointment is pending. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez. All council members were on that email along with staff, so I agree with Councilwoman Cobb. Once staff has answered that they're experts in that field, and once they move forward and set a date, then if it does not meet your standard, then please feel free to reach back out to us. But when we receive email, as Mayor Pro Tem stated, we forward it to the right department and the expert to ensure that it is taken care of properly. With that being said, Melissa Brown, you have 4 minutes.
I saw the budget being passed out to council members during the recess. It's still not available to the public. Charter says that as soon as it's presented to y'all, it goes out to us. It's not there. Where are the disapproved package requests that the council requested at the budget preview? They're also not available on the website yet, and any document pertaining to the budget is a document owed to the public and shouldn't require a FOIA request. Just like the charter is the citizens' document, not the council's document, not yours to make all of the decisions about. This is the city's budget, meaning the true stakeholders, the residents, the property owners, the business owners, the visitors, and the shoppers, not the council's budget. Even a portion allotting money to you and your whims doesn't belong to you. Since we don't know what's in the budget, let me talk about guesses for what's not in the budget for this coming year. Benches in downtown. We want people to come to downtown. We're pouring millions of dollars into revitalizing it. People can come here, but they can't sit down outside unless they're patronizing a business. That kind of defeats the purpose. But of course, if you did that, you run the risk of homeless having some place to sit down. Electricity at park pavilions. We pay for parks through our taxes. It comes out of the general fund. It doesn't take that much money to allow electricity. In fact, the $110,000 that you had budgeted for travel last year is less than it would take to provide electricity to every single one of those pavilions, have lights on at night, and allow parents to charge their phone. But there's that fear that the homeless would then sit there. Hidden fees. I've got a very good example. You didn't know this, council, and I hope you didn't, because no one has said anything to us. If you have a sprinkler system, you are required to get an annual backflow test, but be aware that you are going to be charged a hidden fee in the city. The city decided very quietly to outsource the database management of this program, and as a result, backflow testers are required to pay the contracted company, BSI, $15 for every test they do, which the customer then has to pay. The tester then gets to go home after their busy day of testing all the backflow and do data entry to update the BSI database with all the tests and results that were done. As far as I can see, BSI will notify the city for anyone out of compliance, so their water can be turned off by the city. I haven't seen a contract for this. I haven't seen it come up publicly. I know that there is another company in Texas. By the way, BSI is not even in Texas. There's another company in Texas that does it for $7, but the city says it's to save money for the taxpayers because they got rid of 2 positions because they couldn't keep them filled because it was too much work and not enough money. Tell you what, if you want to charge a fee, at least be public about it. Don't screw around the public hearing portion. That's required by charter by outsourcing it to a company so you can say, technically, we don't charge the citizen anything. The company that's managing it for us does. You wanted to pay the $5 per person, and then we could have doubled the salary of those 2 employees, hired a 3rd one, and still had extra revenue for the city, but instead we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year out of state. So how was this selected, when, by whom, and why weren't the citizens told? Because you want our input, but we didn't have an opportunity. Also, what other hidden fees are not in this budget that we don't know about? I guess we won't know because we don't get a line item.
For the residents that's in the audience and also the ones that are at home, the budget is online for 2025.
It wasn't when I
If
stepped
you
up there.
have your laptop or your tablet or even on your cell phone, you can pull up the budget and go over and review it with us while we're doing it tonight. Or if you have any questions, please reach out. With that being said, Cameron Cochran.
It's
good
not there.
evening again. You have 4 minutes.
It's
Thank
not
you.
on the
I checked
site.
about an hour ago. I did not see it. Can you give me the link for this budget that's supposedly there?
Please go to the city website.
I did, an
and
hour
put
ago while I
in,
was sitting here
excuse
waiting.
me, if you ask me a question, please be patient and don't interrupt me.
Nope, I'm going on. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hopefully you'll put it out there in a minute or something like that. Again, I looked, well, about 4 o'clock today, I looked at 3 different places in there. So can you give me a timestamp with that, when that was added?
I'm looking right now, it's not there.
Please go.
All right, thank you. I guess it's not
Thank you.
there. Thank you for misleading the audience once again. Since we don't know what's in the budget, since we don't have a copy of the budget, my only question is that travel budget increased? The reason why I'm asking is because I see last year that several council members traveled to different places and took their spouses and still haven't paid the city back for those spouses to attend different functions, taxi rides, and things like that. So I'm wondering how much that budget's going to increase for the council members and other people that love to joyride on the taxpayer money. Second thing is, I would like to ask capital improvement projects. Are we still looking at new city hall, a new parking structure, a new library, a new teen center / community center? Been kind of quiet on that recently since the numbers we're using for 2 years ago to try to suggest that it's going to be a lower amount. I'd like to know the true amount. Hopefully it's in this budget discussion in the PowerPoint slides. Speaking of the PowerPoint slides, on the corner, if you notice, they're using the ones they had before. It says priority numbers. On the left-hand side, it'll say 1, it'll say 16, it'll say 49. I sent an email to the city asking what's the top 25 priorities for the city for the fiscal year 2025 budget. I heard crickets, nothing. Again, the city does not like to respond to emails. They have no transparency. It'd be nice to look at the list before the city starts looking at it, and I know you're probably gonna have town halls. Can we have those sooner than later, since we are in July and this has to be approved really soon? Thank you.
Once again, the council have not gone over the budget as of yet. Before the first person spoke, sir, take your seat. You took it, your time is up.
March, you looked at it, right?
Please, that's your first one. Take
Can I have
a
another,
seat.
please?
Thank you. And with that being said, the council have not reviewed the budget. When the first person came to give a comment, it was already posted.
It's not.
So the question was that the city of Killeen is transparent and the budget is online. Thank you. Councilmember Board.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Cochran, please leave the chamber now. That was your second warning for interrupting. Please leave.
Thank you. Trying to help out the citizens, but you're not. Again, I looked, it wasn't there.
The public's looking, it's not there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll go forward with my
Thank you, Colin. And when I say leave, please leave. And that means leave the premises.
Can't do that.
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good night. KilleenTexas.gov/document center/view/fiscal year 2025 budget, preview. It is online on our website
Not
for
the
all our
preview, the
citizens to
budget.
access as we speak. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Excuse me, Melissa Brown, that is your first warning for interrupting the meeting while Councilmember Boyd was speaking. Anything else from the council? As I move on to the next person. Mr. Sean Price.
Since no one's talking the budget, preview is
Point of
not the
order.
budget. And it's my phone, not a sign.
Boyd, yes.
Yeah, you can throw off all the disruptions in the meeting, which are very unfortunate. I think Councilman.
I apologize to you, Mr. Sean Price.
It's not a problem. Y'all are handling
Yes,
business.
sir.
I got you.
I just want to make a real correction that the city manager can't correct this. Bond items are not on the current fiscal year budget planning until they have been passed by the ballot, correct? We don't include those in the budget until the citizens have actually voted for them. If we didn't, when it's a bond that has to go to an election. I think that's the.
He will answer that question for you because he will come up first with RS-24-126.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Price, I apologize for that, please.
Nothing to apologize for, y'all. We're just doing the job. I got it. Yeah, so again, as according to the law, section 551.007 is as I was. And there is an issue with trying to find this information or any information. I don't know because it comes up blank. So I don't know if the website is bad or whatnot, but trying to get any of the information.
Are you talking about the budget?
Yes, this right here. So it's the only one on here for RS-24-126. You can't get the information. There's a problem, right? As that we're trying to figure out what's going on. We can't read anything as a citizen. There's nothing there. So it's like, okay. And that's what they're trying to tell you is that there's nothing there. You all are saying it's there, but there's something, there's an icon for it, but there's nothing behind it. When you pull it up, it's a blank screen afterwards. So that's just my problem. Don't know what it is, but that's my problem. But my questions are as to the budget. I was just wondering what the total money is projected to be spent for the year 2025, right? By demographics, right? By the city of Killeen's demographics. Who's going to get what money? How much of the funds are going to be borrowed funds, right? Are they going to be part of the ARPA funds or anything like this? So is it going to be adding to our national debt or national inflation? So what's the total amount of borrowed funds that we're going to have for 2025? If I can get that answered, because I can't find it. And there's nothing in there for the actual electricity bill or water bill, what the city is spending for those two items, right? I can't find that information that's specifically stated. This is our electricity bill that we spent as a total for a city. This is our total amount of water spent for our city. I can't find that. And then also today is day 269 for the Americans that are held hostage in
Mr. Price, please get on the
Palestinian Nazi
agenda.
Hamas
That's
terrorists.
your first one. Ms. Price, you on the agenda, take a seat. You still have 1 minute and 28 seconds. It's on the budget.
You don't like me talking about hostages?
Mr. Price, you disrupting the meeting, please leave the chamber. And that means leave the premises.
Does not mean that.
We will now move on to the second item.
She can't
Mr.
legally
Price,
do
your
that.
time is up. Please take a seat. Leave the premises.
Hold on, let me grab my shit.
Can't remove people from the front.
Mayor,
You can make a statement.
yes ma'am. So on the website, we do have the budget preview. It looks like, it's the PowerPoint that's about to be given. The actual budget should be up there any moment. And just to clarify, tonight is the budget presentation. There's no vote on the budget tonight. You'll set a public hearing for future discussion, but you can't present the budget before you present it. And that's what happens tonight, so everybody gets the same information at the same time. It's all put out there. So everybody's gonna, as I said, everybody's gonna get the same information at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle, and it's not saying that they cannot find it, it's one thing, but disrupting the meeting is a totally different thing. So with that being said, Mr. Leo Carson.
It's there now.
Good evening, sir, you have 4 minutes.
Embarrassing. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Temp, council members, city manager, Mr. Cagle, and fellow residents. As usual, I will start off with my quote of the day. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. President John F. Kennedy, 35th President of the United States. To paraphrase that more to our condition, I would say, ask not what your city can do for you, but what you can do for your city. I have a printed out presentation I was going to go over, but I'm going to wing it for my 2 minutes and 25 seconds. I personally, as a resident, am concerned with the financial status of the city. Back on 26 February, when there was a briefing held, received input and priorities for FY25 budget, there were a lot of things said there that were alarming. Like, it's going to be a tight budget. The sales tax were really, at that point I should say, was unknown of what the sales tax revenue was going to be. And it was put out maybe a 3.5% on that. Now, that's not a lot of money if you ask me when you're dealing with the city budget. It's also was stated that 70% of the city expenses are personnel related. So that only leaves up 30% of the budget for everything else that we have to do. There were a lot of discussions there about adding items, like one person of this body stated that possibly looking at a fee for park usage to offset the 6.3 million related to the parks. I have said this before about the park plan that was voted on, that the parks are a self-inflicted wound because you're having these developers put parks in there that we, the city, not me, but the city, take control over. We can't even get the parks we have now open. I know 3 parks that are locked up because they can't be maintained. I just hope that as y'all go through this, because numerous times you have stated that you are the keeper of the purse strings, that you really look at the budget, cut out the pork belly projects that are in there, and instead of spin, kind of like the old saying goes when I was in the Army, like a drunk sailor on shore leave, no offense to sailors, you take a real good look at it and you cut instead of spin to help. Because you can spend all day, but it takes a true leader to do eat the hard right over the easy wrong. And cutting is what we need to do, not spin. Thank you.
Mr. Carson, thank you for your comments. And we will discuss, I guess I'll talk offline about the 3 parks. I know it's not on the agenda, so I can't really go into details with that I'll close. So with that being said, any comments from the council so we can move forward? All right, citizen comments are closed. Secretary, resolution. Council, you have 3 minutes, 3 times each to speak. And one of the things, I don't know who can address it, and it may be off the agenda, about the backflow fee. I wanted to address that. And then one of the residents talked about why the water and electric bill fee is not on there. So with that being said, Madam Secretary.
RS 24126. A. Receive fiscal year 2025 proposed annual budget and overview provided by the city manager.
Mr. Cable, the floor is yours.
Madam Mayor and Council. First of all, to discuss a little bit of the schedule. Tonight is, as I said earlier, is the budget delivery and presentation. A public hearing is currently scheduled for July 23rd, and that's something you'd have to vote on tonight to set that public hearing. And then on August 6th, there's setting the proposed tax rate. And if you remember that you're setting a proposed maximum rate, you can always lower it after that. But after that, if you want to raise it, we have to start the process over. And depending on where we are at that time, there may or may not be enough time left to do that. If there is any interest in calling in November, I don't know that there is at this point, but we had that on there. That's August 19th. And then if any changes are made after the first public hearing, there's a second public hearing that would be August 20th. And then on September 3rd, there's a tax rate public hearing and also adoption of the budget and setting the tax rate. First of all, I'll talk a little bit about the big picture. Just as everyone knows, we're a growing city, and the population now is about 165,000. And what I'm going to do at this point is pull it up on my iPad because I'm having a hard time reading that up there. Okay. You can see our population going back to 2011, 130,000, now to 165,000 projected in 2025. If you look at our employees per 1,000 population, this is a way to measure the number of employees over time and based on the growth of the city. We have a couple of numbers out there on the right. The first one is, you see the blue one, 2025. It's 8.23 employees per capita. If we add the SAFER grant, and if we get the SAFER grant and add the firefighters, it's a little over 20, and that takes us up to 8.37. And I'd also remind you that in 2025, we added 21 employees that maintained the state veterans cemetery, so that increased our per capita number a little bit as well. Median household income, this data is a little delayed, so we only have it up to 2022 of a little over $57,000. Now, tax-supported debt per capita, this is a way if you want to measure debt load across cities, across time. You can see what we have is, I believe that's $880 per person. This is tax-supported debt. And you can see that peaked back in 2014 at a little over $1,400 a person. So then we have some benchmarking against some either our neighbors or somewhat similar cities in the state of Texas. And you can see we're just a little bit above the halfway mark there at 159,000. That's 2023 population. If we compare these cities on employees per capita, you can see at the top is the city of Denton at about $3,900 a person, and you see at Killeen about $1,600 a person. And what we've done here, these are all budgeted expenditures, so this includes general fund, water and sewer, whether you got drainage, any of that. There's two things we excluded to make it a more fair comparison. There's a few cities in here that have electric utilities, and that really skews the numbers. That makes them look like they're spending a lot more per person than the other cities. So Denton's one that comes to mind. Garland is another one. At one point, Lubbock was doing that. But if they had an electric utility or a zoo, we took it out to make it more of an even comparison. So really all that did was lower some of the numbers on some of the cities at the top of the graph. So as I believe one of the speakers mentioned, about 70% of our budget is people, and we'll get to that one Yes, ma'am. Once again, the median household income you can see in our comparison cities, we're on the lower part of this chart as well. And then employees per thousand by city, you can see this is not a lot different. If you go back and look, there are some changes, but if you go back and look at expenditures per capita, we're for the most part in the same place. So yeah, I think cutting budgets can be good, but you also have to ask yourself a lot of questions. Anybody can balance a budget in 1 year, but you have to ask yourself the question, how long is the city going to be here? And are you making short-term decisions that cost you a lot down the road? And I think we can all think about things that has happened in the city's past when the dominant idea was cut. We stopped maintaining our roads, and that cost us a lot more. Our buildings, our vehicles. We weren't adequately funding our pension system. All those are cuts that can make sense in 1 year, but they can't be sustainable, or you end up paying a lot more down the road. And since I used that, you can look at our streets and what happened when we didn't maintain them. And now we're spending money to maintain them, and you can see that they are, every year we're getting better with our streets and with our roads. But anyway, we're a relatively low expense city. Any way you want to measure it, and we could pick another list of cities around the state, similar size. We're going to end up pretty much in the same spot. We're a low expenditure city. So I'll hit the general fund. Just the big picture, you can see that we're spending about $126 million in the general fund. And give me a moment, I've got a couple of notes here. That's about a 3.89% increase over the previous budget. And if you think about what inflation has done along with the growth in our city, we are not keeping up with inflation and population growth with a budget that increases 3.89%. Now, there are a lot of revenue changes. This is some of the stuff that we went over in a previous preview of the budget. So in the major revenue changes would be 4.7 million in a total revenue increase, but 4.8 million of that would be a property tax revenue increase and a slight increase in values in new construction. The proposed, we'll get to another slide on that, but the proposed increase in the tax rate from 62.08 cents to 65.73 cents. That is what we estimate at this point in time to be the no new revenue rate. Expect about a $500,000 decrease in sales tax over the current budget. On actual, it will be perhaps slightly ahead of the current year where we forecast, but it is about a $500,000 less than what we expected to come into this budget. Then we do get some reimbursement from the state of Texas for the disabled veterans exemption. We are, over the prior year budget, there's a $630,000 decrease there from the prior budget. But if you remember, the state budgets in bienniums and our reimbursement varied in those bienniums, and we expected about, in this second year of the biennium, we expected about 1.2 million in revenue. So while that's 600,000 over prior year budget, it's really about a 1.2 million loss. And that's because other cities have been getting reimbursed and the pot is fixed and actually was reduced. About 200,000 decrease in court fines, about 180,000 in increased or new fees, and then transfers from other funds to the general fund of about 720,000. This is just looking at our sales tax over time, and if you want to compare to other cities, if you want to compare the city of Houston to Killeen, how sales tax compares, you look at what does 1 penny of sales tax generate per person. Because there's a variety of sales tax rates throughout the state. Some cities just have 1, some have 1 1/4, 1 1/2, all the way up to 2. So for comparative purposes, we're looking at $143.05 next year for 1 penny per person. But if you look at the note at the bottom, the statewide average is almost $221 per person. We are significantly below the statewide average in 1 cent of sales tax per capita. Then let's look at the overall tax base, and you go all the way to the bottom of the highlighted column. The total levy is 70.558 million. I'll get a little better detail here. If you go back to 2007, the tax rate was 69.5. It peaked at 74.98 and stayed that way for several years until 21, when we started decreasing the rate. Bottomed out last year at 62.08, and the proposal for this, for the 25 budget, is 65.73 cents. These are exemptions. As we know, the largest is the disabled veterans at 57%, and schools, public religious properties at 38%. But to put that into numbers, if you go down to the bottom line here, you can see that now the total DV exemption value is over $2 billion. And this is 7 out of the last 8 years. The increase in the DV exemption has been larger than all the new construction in the city. So if you look at that first line that says, or the second line that says increase or decrease, go to the bottom. You can see that it increased 309 million. Then you go 2 columns over to new taxable value, and all the new construction in the city last year was 161 million. We've drawn the line there at fiscal year 2018, 2019. That was the last year that new construction was greater than the DV exemption. If you go back 1 year before, they were almost equal. But everything under that line, there's a significant difference in the growth in the DV exemption and new construction in the city. And just to give you an example, we picked this one neighborhood that when we first started looking at it, it wasn't completely built out. But this is in Heritage Oaks, and there's 137 DV exemptions, or 67% of this neighborhood. And then, as you know, there are a variety of different values. Some of them are 100%, some of them are less. But 57% of the exemptions in this neighborhood are 100%. So over half of the folks in this neighborhood don't pay property taxes. And once again, I bring that up not to attack the DV exemption, but to ask the state to reimburse the city for the exemption that they granted. The state granted this exemption but didn't have to pay for it. We're asking for reimbursement, which they've done on a partial basis for some cities in the state. And as we showed earlier, that has been rapidly decreasing as the exemption value rapidly increases. So here's a look at the tax rate. The 24 was 62.08 cents. The proposed is 65.73 cents. Once again, a different look in chart form of the tax rate history going back to 2002. Some of the major expense changes: IT, technology. Some of these we've talked about. Our new financial system, new HR system, the real-time crime center. We're finally moving all of the general fund mowing out of solid waste into the general fund. Our cost for the Bell County Communications Center has gone up, increasing code enforcement abatement and disposal costs, and then some smaller increases. These are just examples. They're not all of them by far. Tax appraisal district of Bell County, and then 3 economic development agreements. Some of the changes. You saw one tonight, the police technology upgrade with Axon for next fiscal year at $949,000. And then I'll explain the next 2 on a chart in a moment. But right now, when a police officer starts, after 18 years, they max out. And then the only increases they get after that, if they remain a police officer, are the increases, the annual cost of living increases that the city gives. And right now, I'm recommending that over 5 years, we drop that down to maxing out at 13 years instead of 18. And right now, we would eliminate the last one, or actually the next to last, eliminate slides, step 17, and I'll show you in a graphic form in a minute what that means. But this is a positive. When I say eliminate and reduce, it means that the police officer or firefighter will max out faster. So that is a benefit to them. Yes, ma'am. But in this fiscal year, we're just removing one of those steps. And I've got more detail on that in just a moment. And then some work at the police headquarters. And then the other one. So we'll be opening the Rosa Herford Community Center later in this calendar year. And we need staffing to support that facility. Salary survey and HR. We've got some dangerous conditions in the human resources building that we need to fix. Some renovations at the dog park, Mickey's Dog Park. We do have some serious fence issues there. And then athletic field tarps on some of our athletic fields. And these actually pay off in the long run by improving the maintenance of the field and getting them into play quicker after rains. Then the big one is compensation, a 4% COLA across the board, but that means two things in civil service and police and fire. It's not just the COLA, but it's the increases in their steps, and then all the other employees, a 4% COLA, and then changes in the way overtime is figured by the Department of Labor. So all those costs, $3.6 million. So we're showing major increase changes here of 6.2. We did a lot of reducing in this budget when citizens want to talk about cutting, because the total budget didn't go up $6.2 million. It went up less than that, and that means that other things had to be reduced. Now, to get to the pay plan, this is a little bit confusing because the top line shows where a probationary police officer, that means a person that's not certified, that we hire, they go through our school for roughly 6 months, and then they're on probation for another year. But they start at $64,000. But after they're off probation, it drops down to the police officer P10 plan. So then they go to $69,000, and you can see how the year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6 is at $80,000. Then you got to drop down to the next line for 7 through 12, and then 13 through 17 in the very bottom line where an officer maxes out at $92,745. That used to be 18. We removed essentially the 17th step, and I'll explain why we did that. If you look at, say, steps 10 and 11, they're identical. So as an officer moves from the 10th year to 11th year, there's no increase. And so the proposal is to slowly work our way from the highest to the lowest. So if you look at next year, I propose on steps 14 and 15, we eliminate 15 so you get to the next step quicker. So they've been going 2 years without a step, and the proposal over 5 years is to eliminate those years where there's no increase, and then at the end of that time, the officers or firefighters would be maxing out at 13 years. Not a big cost in the current budget. As we get further down where there's more employees, there will be a bigger cost. Exact same thing on the fire rescue officer pay plan. Then there's a, yes ma'am. No, it's all right. Okay. Then as we talked about last time, there were a lot of requests that are not in the budget. And these are not things I was talking about that we cut. These were requests for increases that were not included in the budget. Now, the big one is we're expecting to get the SAFER grant for the firefighters to operate the new station. If we don't get the SAFER grant, we're going to have a backup plan because we're going to open that fire station. And then there were other unfunded decision packages that included about 30 people, $4.8 million. And then there were other packages without personnel. Typically that's equipment and technology at $1.7 million. So a total there of about $8.8 million. And if you want to put that in terms that are a little easier to understand, right now about 1 penny on the tax rate, it's about $1 million. Then the water and sewer fund, it'll go a lot quicker from here. There's a lot less on each one of these funds. This fund, the increase is about 3.58% increase. We are in much better shape in all of our other funds than the general fund. While 3.58 doesn't sound like we are keeping up with inflation and population growth. We're actually doing pretty well here because we had a number of large expenditure reductions that we took that savings and moved it to maintenance items in the water and sewer fund. Some of the major revenue increases are just from growth, from greater usage or adding new customers. We did have the $150,000 increase from increasing the top 2 tiers in the volumetric rates, and then year 3 of 5 in the proposed commercial increases for $150,000. And then other increases that are based on existing revenues of $200,000 in service charges, $110,000 in interest income, and same thing on the sewer side, just growth in the number of customers. There were major expenses. As we know, things go up for our providers as well. Every year we get increases from WCID, although they were a lot less this year, with a penny each on water and sewer. And then if you remember, we've got a debt increase because of the large maintenance projects that we approved at the Belton plant. But we also had a large debt decrease because of Harker Heights buy-in at the wastewater treatment plant on Chaparral. So there was actually a total decrease from WCID. As I mentioned earlier, we're putting part of that savings back into a pump and lift station replacement and maintenance program. Once again, compensation, there are fewer employees in the water and sewer fund, so the 4% COLA doesn't cost as much in water and sewer. There's some additional fleet replacement and additional funding for water and sewer line replacement. Only one employee is recommended to be added at this time, a senior construction inspector. This puts our WCID rate increases in historical perspective. As I said, back in 23 and 24, we had much larger increases than we had this year. The solid waste fund also in very good shape. Now, it's showing a 10.82% increase in expenditures, and that is without a rate increase, partially due to finally moving out all the mowing function that should have been in the general fund all along, giving them additional expenditures. So total expenses for 25 of $27,125,000. The major revenue changes of $2.65 million, growth in commercial and residential, some market increases in recycling, and transfer station drop-off fees. 7 employees recommended to be adding to solid waste. 1 is a litter crew with the required equipment with a pickup and trailer. And then 4 solid waste workers to work on the back of the truck on bulk pickup, so 1 person is not doing the bulk pickup. We think we'll probably save this much in workers' comp cases from 2 is a lot easier to lift some of this stuff than just 1 person. 1 additional front load truck and a forklift at the recycling center. We do have a number of other increases. As you know, we have to contract to transport the waste from the transfer station to the landfill. That's up $290,000. Fleet service and maintenance up $330,000, but we hope we're really going to chop into this with some of the new fleet that we're buying. The question is when we're going to get it. Additional fleet replacements for 25. Now these are not new. This is not new equipment. This is replacement. And then the 4% COLA. And there was 1 person at the requested recycling center that we did not approve. If you want to look at commercial solid waste rates, look at this chart. The bar in 2016, the residential solid waste rate has not increased since 2016. But if you look at the line, that's our transportation and disposal cost. That's the trucks that take the waste from the transfer station to the landfill, and then the cost to dispose of it at the landfill. You can see that's gone up significantly. So we've done a number of things in solid waste to avoid a rate increase. I would say most of the time when you look at this, should concern you, but part of the reason we've been able to do this is we're removing all the expenses that had been placed in the solid waste fund that didn't have anything to do with solid waste. So I don't know at what point, I don't know that it will be next year, but maybe the year after that, we're probably gonna have to look at a rate increase in solid waste. The drainage utility fund is pretty simple. It's a 4.9% increase in expenditures. Aviation fund, now this is a very large percent increase, but it's a positive one. So there's a 37.6% increase in expenditures in the airport fund. That is due to the ICSA that we just signed with the federal government. So along with those expenses come revenue, and our aviation fund is going to be much healthier because of this ICSA, and we'll be saving the federal government money as well. The street maintenance fund, this one is fairly straightforward. This is the fee that's on the utility bill. We use it for basically three things. For street maintenance, all the milling and overlay that you've been seeing going on, and that will continue to go on through the year, is that street maintenance line at $4.6 million. Then the debt service, we issued a little over $20 million in debt for remove and replace streets. So the debt service is there for another 18 years. And then the capital improvements. So you see we have we're building a very large fund balance here, projected at the end of 25 to be 16.6 million. In all likelihood, it will not be, because as you know, Gilmer's under construction. We awarded the bid for Bunny Trail, about 2 for Watercress. Both of those projects were under budget, so we believe we're going to have enough money to start the first phase of Stagecoach. That should be coming up fairly soon, and then back to Willow Springs. All that to say, the debt issue plus the fund balance here is going to fund all of those major street remove and replace. We don't build new streets with this money. This is for street maintenance, and the highest level of street maintenance is remove and replace. And this won't cover it all, so we'll see how far we can go on Stagecoach with this money, and then how soon we can get to Willow Springs. The hotel occupancy fund, this fund actually decreased because we had projected a fairly large increase in revenue last year due to the single-family rental or neighborhood rentals, and that didn't get started for quite a while, so we're being a little more conservative in our projections, but we still have a very healthy fund balance, and the hotel occupancy fund is in very good shape. The last thing, just a reminder, then we can take questions and have any discussion, is that the charter requires us to take a vote to fix the time and place of the first public hearing on the budget, and it's recommended this would be a special city council meeting. We had planned this one, and it fits into the budget schedule before we made the change in meeting dates. And we have a lot of schedules to keep. It's not just the charter, but it's also state law regarding the budget and tax rates. So we're recommending that we set the date of July 23rd, 2024 to have a public hearing on the fiscal year 25 annual budget. And after discussion, it would be appropriate to have a motion and action on that issue. And at that point, I'll end and open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. And the question about parks is not so much as the three I was talking about, but parks all could be discussed on this agenda item, but not the three that what's wrong with it. So I want to make that's correct, that Mr. Gukeisen, he can talk about parks. I just cannot ask a question in reference to the three parks he was talking about it. So he was on the agenda. Councilmember Boyd, you have a question, sir?
No, I don't have any, thank you.
Okay, I have one. Oh, anybody? Okay. So, Mr. Cagle, so when you said instead of maxing out at 17 years to go and max out at 13 years, is that another way, incentive, or maybe the wrong way, a way that we can recruit and retain our first responders?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So it would be a 5-year plan to get from 18 to 13 years.
That is great. And my other question, first of all, kudos to Public Works Department for the litter crew. That is the start and the beginning of our beautification program. So they will be out picking up trash throughout of the city, and that is awesome. Kudos. And my last question is the SAFER grant. You made the statement, and do you know the deadline when we will know about the grant? And if so, I know it's coming out of general fund to fund those individuals. Will there also have to be revised budget if we have to go that route? Good evening, Chief Kaminsky.
Chief, I'll answer the last part of that. Yes, we'd have to do a revised budget. That doesn't mean you change tax rates or fees or anything like that. You can't do that in the middle of the year.
Okay. All right. So that's our plan B.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I agree. The fire station must be open. I agree. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, the SAFER grant was applied for. The deadline was back in March, so we've been in this process since March. We worked diligently with both the Finance Department and the administration for the Fire Department to rework how we've applied. We've tried to apply the last 2 years, and we're not selected. It is a highly competitive process. We are expecting, now that the grants have been scored, we're expecting to start hearing, they would release announcements for the awards once a week over 4 to 6 weeks, usually on Fridays. So both Ms. Tanglin and Ms. Drake and myself tend to watch the computer very closely on Friday mornings to hope that we hear that announcement. That should be sometime in the mid-July and parts of August that we'll start to hear those announcements coming out.
Okay, thank you. And we're just keeping our fingers crossed on that.
It's a highly competitive process. We're going to keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you said, thank you, Chief. And along with that, you spoke on 4% COLA. Is that across for all the employees for the step increase?
I got a question.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
No, go ahead. I was just.
Oh, no. My question is totally different. Councilmember Segar?
Yeah, now that the chief's here, and in looking at, the income and all that, one of the things it says that we had an increase of $604,968, and this increase coming from the fire rescue, fire recovery, and ambulance fees, and that's an increase over last year. What contributes to that increase? I think that's a good thing. We collected $600,000. Is that because of the company that's going after this, or we just have more accidents, people getting sick? What's the deal here?
It is a combination of a few different things. The first is our fire recovery fee. That is the fee charged for car accidents. That is something we were not collecting in the previous years. We had the ability to collect that, and for numerous reasons, we're not doing that. We were able to embark on that process. So that was some increased revenue. Additionally, call volume increased. So with increased call volume for ambulance calls, we do see an increase in our billing rates for that. And the third piece is working closely with our vendor to ensure that they're capturing our rates, our collections appropriately, working with the insurance companies, making sure they're staying on top of collecting the maximum percentage of a bill possible through our insurance companies as well. So it is a culmination of a number of different efforts that we work on throughout the year. And the big piece is communicating with our billing company on a quarterly basis, which is something that previous billing companies were not doing.
No, well, that's a good thing. I appreciate you guys doing that, because that's a big kudos to you guys and the people that do that. Because, yeah, it says that's a big hit, a big increase. 394 of this coming from the fire recovery and ambulance fee. So we found some money somewhere.
And we'll continue working on it.
And if I still have the floor, I just have a quick comment, because I know that the big revenue we have is from ad valorem tax, from property tax increases, and I think it shows that we had a 3.9% in appreciation in property values. Is that what it shows?
Let me go back to it.
Yeah, it says 4.9 million increase in property taxes.
Oh, okay. I apologize, let me find.
And I'm
No,
reading on
I'm
the
going the
notes,
wrong
I'm
way.
reading it under, I didn't even look at the chart, I'm reading on the general fund notes here.
Yes, sir, I'm in the general fund, and there we go.
Yeah.
Is this the slide you were referring to?
Yeah, I think it is, because, yeah, it says reflect a 4.7% million dollar increase, or 3.9% increase over FY '27. So I'm assuming that's, property valuations, properties going up.
Well, so this 4.8 million over the prior year is a lot of changes. It's increases in value, it's decreases in value, it's new construction, and it's the tax rate as well. It's all of those combined. Let me see if I can go, no, that's the wrong way. So when you see here our market value in 25, and this is preliminary, we don't have the final tax roll yet, but you go back to the certified 24, there is a $448 million increase, that's 2.98. And so the net taxable is up 3.57%. And then you get into the senior tax freeze, and it gets a little complicated. And then you take the TERS out, and then you get an adjusted taxable value that's up 1.92%.
And I was just trying to figure out how that compared to the previous year, prices from the previous year, because I know that's the majority of our revenue, it's from the property taxes.
Yes, sir, and the increases in, I think most of our increases were more on the commercial side. I think most residential were pretty flat, very small increase or small decrease is a lot of what we saw. But if you want to look historically at the 24 line there, the freeze adjusted taxable value was $10,139 million, and we went up to $10,394 million. So that's the last two lines there, 24 and 25. That's how much the taxable value went up. So I think that's the freeze adjusted taxable value, and you go back to this on the adjusted taxable value, that was up 1.92%.
1.9, and
Yes,
so
sir.
we would use 1.9. Yeah, and the reason is because I know that we kind of see valuation continue to increase. I know there's been a slowdown, but
Yes, sir.
I think that we see that happening, and I know everything is just more expensive, and that's one of the reasons why. So, I'm trying to anticipate, if in the future that's going to continue to go up, or, I know that, people got their tax bills this year. I know that probably won't affect it this year, but, the following year, I guess. And I know I've seen prices on the tax ad valorem come down.
Mm-hmm.
They've actually come down on a lot of people's tax bills.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know how much of an effect that's going to have on us, but because with the roll we got in July is for what?
January 1, 25.
25.
I'm sorry, 24. Excuse me, I got ahead of myself. January 1, 24.
Yeah, so 25, we might see those numbers come down because
Yes, sir.
when I got my bill, like I said, everything seems to be going down. So, all right, thank you.
Just another note on that. This is not about DB exemption, but if you look at the next to last value, it does have the new construction value. And we've been, the last 3 or 4 years just under 200 million in new construction. That's commercial, residential, multifamily, everything.
Yeah, but I agree with you, there's a lot of development, and it comes across that commercial is what's leading the raise, the fee, but that's been a lot. Okay. Mr. Kager, back to my slide about,
Oh, yes. I'll get to it.
and this is my last question. And this is, I just want to know, is this for employees and also our first responders?
It's for all employees, but we have civil service and then
Right.
everybody else, or you call it classified. So there's two forms of increases on civil service. That's the across the board COLA, But then they also get step increases, because if you see that one through, which
Right.
would be now 17.
17.
If they move there, they get that increase as well, the step increase. So typically, someone in civil service is gonna get more than a 4%. Unless they were on one of those steps where there was no increase, then it would be 4%.
That's my question, because we go to 13, right, and that's where they max out.
Yes, ma'am.
From moving forward, it'd just be 4% COLA to retain them?
Well, there's no guarantee it's gonna be 4% every year, it could be more or less.
Oh.
But, no, I think they'll all tell you it's to their advantage to top out sooner rather than later. You're getting the money earlier.
Okay, I understand that. Can I get from Chief Lopez
Sure.
and Chief Kabinski? Because at 13, I don't know if they want something, you came up with this, both of you, so please, because I would think that to retain, you know, I think it's great for 13, but it's got to be something afterwards other than 4%. And I know, Mr. Kagan, you said in COLA could be more, but maybe this makes sense to me.
I think Mr. Cagle's come up with a good plan. It's the first step to retain our people, because we really don't have a recruiting issue. We recruit pretty well, but we have a retention issue because officers are leaving for higher paying jobs. After 5 years, an officer takes them another 12 years to get to the max pay when they can leave to go to another agency that's offering bonuses and stuff like that. So this is an incentive to keep officers between the 5 to 10 year range, stay around a little bit longer and retire.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So while in this first year it's a minor thing, I think it's talking about 5 years and talking about implementing it as we can is a show of faith to our public safety employees that's the plan.
Right.
And also, I'll just to point out, I think I have the numbers in my head, but you can see that it's almost 2.5 million on civil service versus 1 million for other employees. I think civil service are about 53% of the employees in the general fund, but about 70 some odd percent of the pay increase is going to them for a couple of reasons. One is the steps that the classified employees don't have, and on average, they're probably a little higher paid than the average classified employee.
Thank you for that. I think Chief Lopez answered my question, because first responders leave within 3 to 5 years, and that will give them a reason to stay around. That was good. Okay, and Chief Kabinski.
If I could just add on to that, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The little bit of the history with the way our 18 steps came about is back in the day, we're talking 15, 20 years ago before we were all here, there were no COLAs, so this is a way to ensure that the fire and police officers got an increase in their pay, where that's not the philosophy of this city management and city council. And secondly, 18 steps, we are one of only 2 departments in our comparables that have 18 steps. Most fire departments are somewhere in the 7 to 13 step range for public safety. So this would be falling right in line with our comparables on having that step plan max out at 13.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Thank you for your hard work. And Chief Lopez, there may be a question for you, and Chief Lopez and Chief Kabinski for giving. That was very smart to retain them because they leave between 3 to 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. My question is actually for Mr. Cagle. We've talked before.
Thank you both.
Thank you, John. We've talked before about the DB exemption and the unfunded mandate. So while none of us are in agreement, we are all in agreement, I'm sorry, that we completely support our veterans as this entitlement. That's not what this is about. We're looking at the state to help our community be able to sustain itself. So when we're looking at call to action for our citizens, for example, we have been lobbying, and we've got our lobbying firm that's been pushing to help us drive this ability to help us get some additional funding. But as they continue to increase the pool to other cities, it's decreasing our ability to earn, which is only going to hurt our city even more. Now, realistically, we cannot afford to not grow.
Yes, ma'am.
We can cut, but we can't cut everything, and we have to keep our wheels moving and to be able to sustain them. So if there was a call to action to our community, would we say that we would want our citizens to also line up together to fight this fight, and let's do a petition to our state representatives and our congressmen to help us push this initiative to get this unfunded mandate to help our city continue to grow? What can we do differently, if anything, to help offset this?
Yes, ma'am. I agree. It's just our state officials. So our state reps and state senators And I believe, I know there's a lot of work being done right now. And I think there is a much more feasible plan in the works. The plan that was forwarded last year was a big global solution that was incredibly expensive. And unfortunately, it ended up being based on some misinformation on revenue. And when the true information came out, it was too late to save the bill. Now, I think what our representatives and our senator are talking about now is a much more focused approach on those cities that are most impacted by large military bases, and I think that's basically going to be Bell County, Bexar County, El Paso County, rather than trying a statewide global solution. As I've said many times, I know there are many city managers in the state that don't even know what this is. It's so minor on their tax roll, they don't even notice it. But we're disproportionately impacted. And you can see $2 billion is an incredible amount, and the growth rate is what's really scary as well. So yes, I think we need, I know our representatives and our senator are very focused on this, but it always helps. It always helps to let them know how critical it is, and the more people that they hear from, the better. And I would say that goes for everybody in state government, all the lieutenant governor, the governor. I know they're all aware of this issue, but every little bit helps.
Thank you for that. So we've been going round and round, so I'm just going to issue this last statement before I close. And I just want to thank you, all my citizens, all of our citizens for the city of Killeen. So my charge to you is, if you are interested in helping the city be able to increase our revenue and to be able to adjust this and propose to our legislators who can actually help us affect our change, email us. Let's start that now so we can go ahead and get that, over to our legislators to help us make a difference. I also want to lastly thank our finance department and all the other departments who have worked diligently to help us get this information out. There's a lot. We understand the trials that we're in right now, and I appreciate everyone for being active in helping us put this together and helping us make sense of it. With that, Madam, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion. Can I do that now? Is there nobody else speaking? I'd like to
Council, I apologize.
Yes,
Did you say
with regards to the citizens? No, they can email if they're interested. I want to email our congressman. I want to get on the bandwagon to support our city to be able to promote our initiatives here for the city of Killeen. As I've said before, we are not small potatoes. We are a larger city in Bell County. We are an important element to the state of Texas, and it's important that we start using our voices for good to actually get some real work done here in the city of Killeen. So my challenge to our citizens is to email me so that we can start working with our congressman to help get something done.
And that's an excellent, Mayor Pro Tem, your call to action to get District 1 citizens involved in what's going on. Is that your intent?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to follow up because she makes a lot of sense on what you just said.
Do you have a problem, Councilmember Ford? Okay. Yes, sir. Councilmember Segar.
Yeah.
Councilmember Adams, do you have a problem? Because he just want to piggyback on what she said.
Yeah, and what she just said, because the city manager mentioned something about military communities, and I think that it's important that if we combine, not just us, but all those military, we used to be part of that, and I don't know if we still are, military communities, that you have a bigger footprint than just us. So I hope that we continue to do that, not just us alone, you know, all El Paso and all San Antonio. So.
Mayor Pro Tem, did you have anything else? Okay. Okay, yes, ma'am. I'll come back to you for that motion. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just prepared to second the motion.
We'll come back to you for the second. Councilmember Adams, do you have a question concerning it? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve to set the date for July 23rd, 2024 to hold a public hearing on the fiscal year 2025 annual budget.
Thank you. Councilmember Boyd.
Second.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. So we just went on to beef with the Madam President, so we just keep it moving. Mrs. Drake, did you have anything you want to say? We already voted on that. I had told her that we had to vote on that, so if you have question, council, you can call our finance staff or Mr. Cagle, because we have a couple public hearings for that. So moving on to the next item, Madam Secretary, we already voted on set the date of July 23rd, 2024 to hold a public hearing on the fiscal year 2025 budget. Now we will be going to item number C. Madam Secretary.
Receive fiscal year 2025 proposed capital improvement program overview.
Thank you. Good evening, Mrs. Tangerland.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, Council. This item is to present the capital improvement program. Some background: City Council adopted the capital project policies on April 10, 2018. It requires a 5-year capital improvement program be produced on an annual basis, and we always choose the budget season to do it. The proposed 5-year CIP is based on master plans and departmental needs. The presentation provides an overview of recommended projects and ongoing projects that require additional funding in fiscal year 2025. All the details are in this little book that you got, that is the CIP program, but I'm just gonna go through the highlights. The eligible expenditures include equipment, vehicles, facilities, and infrastructure projects with a value in excess of $100,000. And the project types, there are aviation facilities, park and recreation, drainage, transportation, water and sewer, technology, vehicles and equipment, other projects, and fiscally constrained. The project funding sources are fund balance from the CIP funds, the Information Technology Fund, the TIRS Fund, and the Cable System PEG Fund. Also, we have funding sources from grant reimbursement programs and from bonds. This is the summary of all the projects. As you can see over here, the prior commitments are all the multi-year projects that are underway. In the fiscal year 25 revenues is on your proposed budget. The amount is 39.2 million, and your expenditures are 42.9 million. I want to highlight that 1.8 or 1.9 million are from other non-capital funds. The tax supported debt, this is just the tax supported payments that we do. As you can see how the payments go down. The red line is the 2023 CO issue. The tax supported debt per capita, you guys saw this slide with Mr. Cagle and the budget slide. We are at 880 for fiscal year 2025. Now we're going into the new projects for aviation. We have the terminal rehab, the rehab runway taxiway for a total of $900,000, and the funding source is the AIP grant and PFC fund. For the drainage summary, we have the low water crossing flood mitigation phases 1 to 3, and the stream gauge installation emergency management for $325,000. Their funding source is the drainage CIP. For the facilities summary, we have the City of Killeen Reunification Center for $641,733, and that is a CDBG fund. We have other project summary, that is the strategic land acquisition and the North Killeen grocery store site development for $750,000, and the funding source is TIRS fund. We have the technology summary. We have the UFC technology for and furniture, network hardware replacement for $1.2 million, and that is funded by the governmental CIP fund, the cable system PEG fund, and the IT fund. And we have fleet replacement for the different CIPs funds. And then you can see over here, 7.2 million. You see the funding over here. And the water and sewer summary, we have a few of these projects in here. I just wanted to highlight the ones that are going to be funded by a proposed water and sewer revenue bond. that it will probably come up at late 2025 after the master plan is done with water and sewer. And these are the estimated amounts that we have right now. The total of our water and sewer is 24.6 million. The fiscally constrained by project type total 63.3 million, and you see those details in the book. They start at page 68. And the next steps, discussed further in July and August. The last day to make changes to fiscal year 2025 projects for inclusion in budget is August 6th to remain on a schedule. And making amendments to the plan, or we can adopt the plan as proposed. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Councilmember Cobb, thank you for the presentation.
Yes, thank you all for the presentation. But for over 2 years now, I have been asking for a certain project, and I'm looking for the facility project in this book. And that's the one, the maintenance building. Is that coming up under the bond? Y'all slow me down before I speak with
No, I'll answer you.
Okay, come on.
It will be on, the design will be on, it's funded and will be on an agenda item, I don't know, the next 90 days. I'm looking at the city engineer, well, I'm asking. Maybe.
Y'all, that's gotta be done.
Yes, ma'am. It is in motion and it will be done.
Yes, sir. That's all I need to know.
Thank you. There are no questions for you. Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Councilmember Adams. Oh, somebody got a question. They didn't. Who has?
So everybody got a question?
Oh, yes, sir.
Page 99, traffic signal, Ivy Mountain and Clear Creek. This is a project that's, of course, not funded, long-term, likely to get some funding starting in 2027. Has a TI already been done to determine the need for this signal?
The developer is the one who did the TIA for that one. It does show that there will be a future need for that signal. The developer's gonna be doing some turn lanes as part of the Mitchell Farm development. That's gonna be done on Clear Creek, and then it'll be a matter of finding future source, future revenues or future funding source, either through grant to get the signal in.
Okay. So the developer's not responsible for putting that traffic signal in?
No, they're doing the amount that they were kind of responsible for is really for the turn lanes, the extensions that they're doing, and actually putting in the right turn lane off of Clear Creek.
Okay, I see. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Adams?
Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Can I get a second? Please click. Councilmember Alvarez?
Second that motion.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Meeting adjourned at 8:30, 25 seconds.
I'll find out.
No,
If they, depending on what they chose, they still have to get out. But it goes inside that zone that it's in. So, it's supposed to go to the park. Yeah, in that zone, yeah. So they should go to that, those parks in that zone. And I understand well, people got that. You know, we all do that in budgets, in our own budgets, you know. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then it's not fair because I don't have any kids. And I don't use parks. Why do I understand the bigger picture. I got the, that's the point that people look at. They don't look at the, they look at the, I go, can I ask you, I have no kids in school. Why am I paying that out? That outrageous money to them. Yeah, but I understand the bigger picture. They have to, part, so you don't have to go home. It's a little bit. People understand, I don't use it. It's always, grass is always, you know, stuff's always hard, you don't want kids on it. It's dangerous.
Mulch hasn't been replaced in 10 years.
Congratulations on staying in.
The old steel slides that we used to have.
I knew I was.
You kind of dodged a bullet because you did technically. You had a
Well, also technically, I wasn't disturbing the meeting because no one was talking. They were waiting for him to get up there.
My favorite was last week, and I wasn't here, but I was watching it. Yes, you said I can. That's a true statement.
I said, and I kept saying, I know what she wants. I know what she meant. I know what she wants.